Hello and welcome to Sponsor Programs Accounting Basics. My name is Jonathan Tucker and I serve as the manager for Sponsor Programs Accounting, which is where I've served for the last 10 years. This training today is intended to provide you with information about Sponsor Programs Accounting, who we are, what we do, and how we support our MSU departments with their research projects as well as other restricted funds. So let's get started. The fundamentals of research administration. The Office of Sponsor Projects and Sponsor Programs Accounting oversees all aspects of the grant management cycle, and a research administrator, you, provide management support and help ensure that research goals are achieved and funders or sponsors' terms and conditions are followed. So today, as we go through the training, we're going to go through the life cycle of an award. However, we're going to start at the midpoint. Our office is a post-award office, so we will begin at the project setup and fund establishment. Sponsor Programs Accounting. Who are we? Where are we located? What do we do? How do we support you? And what resources are available to help you successfully manage your restricted projects? Sponsor Programs Accounting is the central office for post-award research administration. Our team is faithfully led by our director, Denise Peoples, and we are structured into two teams, which are led by our senior accountants, Whitley Alford and Lynn Cronaggio. We are located on the 4th floor of MacArthur Hall at 245 Bar Avenue. If you're not familiar with campus, but you know where Davis Wade Stadium is, we're right across the street from the northwest corner. We are also virtually located at controller.msstate.edu/sponsor programs, where you can find our website with a various wealth of information. So what does SPA do? We process new awards and award modifications in Banner, upload the award, contract agreements into Extender, we load restricted budgets, we provide the email notifications to notify you of your award and your fund number, we monitor expenditures for compliance, calculate and complete monthly indirect cost entries, we submit payment requests or invoices, financials, and other required documentation, and we upload all this information into our application Extender to be used by third parties and you across campus. We facilitate cash management with routine drawdowns in multiple systems, provide accounts receivable and collection services. We monitor and help facilitate the billing, financial aspects of the subcontract process as well. And we provide oversight and help facilitate the closeout process for each award and provide assistance and support with reviews and/or audits. So how do we support you? Sponsor Programs Accounting is your central office post-award resource. Part of our support includes providing and directing you to various resources and information that will help you be successful in managing your restricted funds. So resources and information. Let's talk about this for a minute. Your first resource is your department fiscal officers. Anytime you have a question that can be answered in-house, then that's where you need to go. However, if you need to explore other options, we encourage you to contact your Sponsor Programs Accountant. We hope that you will establish and develop a strong relationship with your SPA accountant and that we can facilitate fluid and clear communications. Our website, which houses forms, our FAQs, policies and procedures, and various other training resources. Then there's banner forms and reports that can help you. Our Extender application, which we will look at a little later, it houses all of our scanned documentation, including invoices, emails, financials, supporting documentation for those financials, and then just having a clear understanding of the closeout process. Familiarity with the terms and conditions of your project, and then like I said earlier, fluid communication between our department and your other central offices just helps ensure the success of your projects. Our sponsor programs forms can be located on our website. As you will notice, you can drill down and select or check the box beside each controller office department to find their specific forms. Ours can be located here if you check the box SPA Accounting. We also have many frequently asked questions or FAQs within our website. We won't go through these today for the sake of time, so please visit our website. And then we also have several other training resources associated with various topics such as cost share, subcontracts, insufficient funds queue, and just a wealth of other information located. So we really do have a wealth of information in our website. We do encourage you to visit that. And if you have any questions outside that cannot be found at our website, then obviously contact us. Okay, so let's get started in the life cycle of an award, starting with the project setup and the establishment of your fund. So SPA's responsibility at this level is assumed by our SPA senior accountants, Whitley Alford and Glenn Carnaggio. SPA receives the award from OSB. The award is processed, is set up in Banner, and imported into Extender. The budget is loaded, and then the award fund notification email is sent to you and other appropriate personnel. SPA also receives award modifications and processes these accordingly. Department responsibilities: access the scanned award and Extender through FraGrant. Familiarize yourself with specific terms and conditions for all of your funds. Identify your SPA accountant, contact them with any questions you may have, and then simply begin charging to your restricted fund. This is an example of a fund or award fund notification that you will receive from our senior accountants. You'll notice it has all the information you need to identify which project this is, including the PI, the sponsor's name, project title, university account number, and then your MSU grant number. If you go to a banner form FRA GRNT, which we call FraGrant, you enter in the G number from your notification and then click on this Extender button. Another browser will open up and it will provide you access to your award contract. In order to open that contract or that award, simply click on the paper icon and it will pull up the award in a format that allows you to search through the award page by page. If you would like to see a more friendly or user-friendly version, simply export this into PDF. Our senior accountants do a great job of marking up these awards and contracts and making it much more user-friendly and more efficient for you as you look through the various pages for the information you're looking for. We bookmark various pages such as the budget, the IAS, any information concerning equipment or invoicing specifications. We also, since it's in PDF format, you have the ability to keyword search. So I do encourage you, if you're opening your award, to go ahead and export it into a PDF format. It is much more a user-friendly document and it actually benefits you. And if you need more information on how to open Extender or how to utilize Extender or how to navigate it, simply go to our homepage of our website and we have about a 6-minute tutorial that gives you that information. So how to find your SPA accountant. As I mentioned earlier, we have 2 teams. It depends really on, we are structured by org, so our accountants they have responsibility for specific orgs on campus. So for instance, if you work in the College of Architecture, Business and Industry, Education, Wildlife and Fisheries, then your SPA accountant is going to be Stephanie Ford. Or if you're in the College of Engineering, Kim Randall will take care of you. If you're in the College of Agriculture, Webb Jennings will be the accountant that will handle you, anything that you need. And then College of Arts and Sciences, Veterinary Medicine, or a research center, or some other various agricultural orgs, Cindy Wall will be there to take care of you. In order to find your accountant, if you go to our website, look on the right-hand side where it says Find Your Accountant. If you click on this information will populate for you, and you can simply search your org, and the accountant, the respective accountant above that org is who you need to contact. If you, for some reason, do not see your org, simply call our number and we will be happy to help you. So let's talk a little bit about award management. So our responsibilities: our SPA accountants review journal vouchers and completed SPA forms. They monitor the insufficient funds queue. They review cost share funds. They review fund to org program errors, request budget revisions when needed, and essentially we provide a high-level oversight. Department's responsibilities is to direct charge expenses to the appropriate funds, run ledgers and reconcile all funds every month, monitor effort charged on all funds, charge and cover expenses for all cost share obligations, submit confirmation of efforts or COEs by the specified due dates, revise budgets as needed. Keeping in mind sponsor approval may be required for a budget revision, and communicate any pertinent information about funds to your SPA accountant. I can't stress this enough. Communication plays a vital role in the success of your projects. We are all on the same team, whether it's pre-award at OSP or post-award at SPA or the department. We all work together to ensure the success of research on the campus of MSU, and specifically your projects. So, as I mentioned earlier, we provide a high-level oversight. I can't stress that enough, because it is you, the business manager or the research administrator, and the PI are responsible for ensuring that all costs, all expenditures are reasonable, allocable, and allowable, and within the scope of the budget and the project to which you're charging. But also utilize your SPA accountant if and when needed. As I mentioned, we're a team, we work together. If you're not set up to key your journal vouchers and you would like to get set up, I'll start you off here by going to its.msstate.edu and follow this trail to lead you to the correct form to fill out and complete and to receive that access. So, direct charging. All journal vouchers must be keyed with journal type FT04 for proper approval routing when keying on a restricted fund. Prevent the need for cost transfers by direct charging expenses to the appropriate fund. This reduces administrative burden on you and on us. And also, cost transfers is an admission in itself that a mistake has been made 99.9% of the time. And it's also a target for auditors. So we want to reduce the amount of cost transfers that takes place on our campus by direct charging to the appropriate fund. JV approval. So scan and email a copy of your completed JV with the proper supporting documentation to your SPA accountant, but you will simply email this to spaccounting@controller.msstate.edu, which is a central email address within our office, and then that document will be routed to the appropriate accountant. The NSF queue, or the insufficient funds queue. This is a queue that your entry will get caught up in if there are insufficient funds to cover that specific purchase. Now, the most common reasons for JVs that are deemed NSF are: one, there's no line item budget, line item budget is overspent, or an incorrect org or program is being used within that entry. That's essentially the three main reasons that your entry gets caught up in the queue, which does slow down the process. SPA will request budget revisions as needed, but we do encourage you to be proactive in managing your budgets. When you notice the line items that are beginning to be overrun or overspent, complete a budget revision. Get those budgets clean, and so the process flows smoothly, nothing gets bottlenecked, and that it just helps with the success of your project as a whole. The NSF queue is monitored daily. We strive to address all NSF entries within a 24-hour period. So this says, what do you mean I can't? My program manager said it would be okay. Well, we hear this a lot. We get a lot of charges will be disapproved, or they end up in the queue when you've actually received permission or you received approval from the sponsor. However, the problem is communication. There's a breakdown in communication somewhere along that path. So we want to just encourage you to make sure you are utilizing your central award or central offices such as OSP. You may have received permission or approval from a sponsor for a specific charge. However, that approval has not made it through, is not routed through the proper departments. And so anytime you get new information about your project that you think would be pertinent or would be good information for your central offices to be aware of, please pass that information along. Communication really is the key to success. Fund reconciliation. We close each financial month at 8 a.m. on the 4th business day of the following month. Refer to MSU Operating Policy 61.01 at policies.msstate for more information on reconciling your funds. This responsibility should include PI involvement. And I've listed a few useful banner forms and reports that will help you in managing your projects on a monthly basis. However, there are many more. And if you have any questions about any of these specific banner forms or reports, once again, reach out to your SPA accountant. That is your number one resource for post-award is your SPA accountant. So let's talk for a few minutes about the various sponsor form or SPA forms. The type of entry being completed determines which form to use. So this is critical. This tells you which form to use. Is being determined by the type of entry that you're completing. So cost transfer forms. This form is used to transfer an expense from one fund to another. 2 or more funds must be involved with this entry. Budget transfer request. We're going to use this fund to transfer budget and or revenue from one fund to another, cost share, tuition, overruns, etc. Interdepartmental JVs, this is used for interdepartmental transactions. We correct org and program errors, or if you need to reclassify account codes. And then restricted fund budget revision. This is obviously, the name says it all. You use this form to revise your budget. Please keep in mind, sponsor approval may be required for this. So let's look at a few of these funds in detail, or a few of these forms in detail. The cost transfer request. We actually have 2 forms. One is the cost transfer request, and the other is the justification. Determining on which form to use determines on whether you key your own entries or not. For this specific form, this is for a department that does not key their own entries. You may be a small department, you may have very little sponsored research, you may have just a handful of entries, and so in that case, by all means, please feel free to complete this form and send it to our office, and we will get it keyed for you and posted. So this form is used to transfer existing charges. So if you've charged an expense to one of your designated funds, realize that it is associated with your restricted fund or your research project, then you're going to complete this to transfer that cost. I just want to stress all information, all requested information on this form is required. We have tried to compose these forms with information and descriptions and just all the information you need to be able to complete this form. However, once again, reach out to our office if you have any questions. Just a little bit about cost transfers. As I mentioned earlier, cost transfers, excessive requests does increase audit risk. It also reflects poor quality control and accounting practices within your department. So you want to do your best to minimize cost transfers, and the best way to do that is by making sure you're charging it to the accurate fund or the appropriate fund in the beginning. And we certainly want to discourage any cost transfers at the end of a project. This simply looks like you're only trying to spend the money, and that is something that auditors look for. The justification sponsored project cost transfer. Now this form is used if you do key your own cost transfer entries. This form is essentially 90% identical to the cost transfer form. However, there's a little more information that is involved because you are keying your entry. We do ask for you to include certain information like the journal voucher number that you're keying, the fund you're transferring from, the fund you're transferring to, and then we also ask you to use the description format. This description format, it just really helps third-party users, it helps our auditors, it helps us, it'll help you when you take a look at that entry within Banner, you know exactly where that charge came from, you know exactly where that charge went to. So it makes a more clear paper trail and just makes everything more transparent. Budget transfer request. So use this form to transfer budget and or revenue. If you are transferring from an E&G fund, it's a 2-part entry where you're transferring the budget and revenue, then you would actually submit this to the Controller and Treasurer's Budget Department. But when you're transferring from a designated fund simply to transferring revenue to cover overrun, it's a single entry, and you would submit this form directly to our office. This would be used for instances like you are covering cost share charges, or you're covering tuition that was not allowed by the sponsor, or if you're simply covering an overrun on a project that a department is responsible for. The most common mistakes that we see with these forms are the transfer codes that are used. They're either the incorrect transfer codes, or they're simply missing because the person who completed it didn't know how or know which account codes to use. And I understand this. There are quite a few combination of transfer codes. But if you can simply answer 2 questions, then you can identify which transfer codes to use. And so first the question would be, as you're looking at this information, is this between funds or is this within fund types? So between fund types would be between a 10 fund and a 30 fund, which we refer to as a restricted fund. Or if you're transferring between a 20 and a 30. Within funds means you're transferring a charge between restricted funds. So you're transferring from a 30 fund to a 30 fund. So if you can answer that question, then you know at least which column of account codes to use. Your second question is easy. Is this transfer associated with cost share? It is. If you are not covering cost share, then the account code that you use would be the 409202 and 359202. And that's the account code you use for overruns, covering tuitions, or any other unallowable charges that the department is responsible for. If you have any questions about this, please contact us. Interdepartmental charge voucher. I know most of you are very familiar with this form. We use this form for original charges, for interdepartmental type charges. As I mentioned earlier, reclassing account codes, correcting orgs or program errors. We want to make sure that you include the proper supporting documentation, whether it be invoices, ledger sheets. Just want to make sure that we have proper backup. And then some account codes that are used to pay intercampus invoices. 357999 is a general account code to use as on the revenue side. And then if you can't find a more descriptive expense code, you're welcome to use 405799. However, we do encourage that we try to be as descriptive as possible when just for the expense side. Restricted fund budget revision. We use this form to revise your budget. This is not an entry that you're able to key at the department level, so this is a form that will have to be completed and then submitted through campus mail, or actually you can submit this form in a PDF format to spaccounting@mstate.edu. This form is the required information on this form is very important to us. We need to have all information completed in order to be able to process this form. So we need to know who's preparing it, your mail stop, and your phone number in case we need to contact you with questions. The date of the request. Obviously, we need the fund, org, and program. And then we want the supporting documentation to come along with this form, which would be a summary ledger or a print screen from FGI TRND, just something showing where the charges or what your budget currently looks like, and that you actually do have line item budget to be transferred out and moved and reallocated into other line items. Keep in mind when sponsor approval is required that you need to contact your administrator at the Office of Sponsor Projects, and that so that we can follow the proper channels, and then that modification of that approval will come in the form of a modification and will be routed to our office along with this form, at which time we will key the entry and revise the budget. If you do not need sponsor approval, then simply complete this form and send it to us at SPA. So the most common mistake that we see with the budget revision is the computation for the indirect cost, or the impact on indirect cost. I'm going to try my best to help you a little bit with some various examples of how to calculate IC and how to know when it's being affected when you revise your budget. In order to know if IC will be impacted, then we need to know which line items aren't subject or aren't subject to IC. So various expenses such as tuition, subcontract payments greater than $25,000, GRE fees, equipment, participating costs, lease, utility, maintenance charges, expenses like that are not subject to IC. So that amount of the revision would not be included in the calculation for IC. So how to calculate IC when rebudgeting? First, we have to identify the amount affecting IC. Second, we divide this amount by 1.45 or the appropriate IC rate. And then third, we subtract these two numbers to get the effect on IC. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, so we're going to go through a couple examples and hopefully it will start to become a little bit more clear to you. But first, let's take a look at what the code section 200.56 says. Indirect cost means those costs incurred for a common or joint purpose benefiting more than one cost objective and not readily assignable to the cost objectives specifically benefit without effort disproportionate to the results achieved. So example 1. Let's say we're rebudgeting $1,000 from contractual to equipment. You need a piece of equipment. You did not realize you needed that equipment until you got halfway through the project. You also realize that you have less contractual charges than you expected. So you're going to move $1,000 from contractual to equipment. But it's not as simple as just moving $1,000 from contractual equipment because indirect cost is impacted in this type of entry. The full $1,000 will be impacted since contractual charges are subject to IC, the equipment charges are not. So we take $1,000, divide it by 1.455, we get 687. This is our direct cost. We simply take that 687, subtract it from the original 1,000 to get $312, which is the indirect. So your entry is going to look like this. You're going to reduce contractual by 687.29, reduce indirect costs by 312.71, and then increase equipment by $1,000. So although you will have $1,000 to use to buy that piece of equipment, $687 came from contractual line item and $312 came from the indirect cost line item. Another example in the opposite direction. Let's rebudget $1,000 from equipment. You didn't need that equipment, but now you need to buy more supplies. So we take that same $1,000, divide it by 1.455, we get the same $687.29 direct cost, subtract that from original 1,000, and now it's $312.71 indirect costs. Same amounts, however your entry looks just the opposite. We're going to decrease equipment for the full 1,000, but you only have $887 to use toward commodities because $312 has to be budgeted or added to the indirect cost line item. So this is important in knowing if you need a specific amount for commodities. In this case, if you needed $1,000 for commodities, simply moving $1,000 from equipment is not sufficient. You'll need to actually move a little more. So award management on a quarterly basis. Some of the things our accountants do is cost share review. They review cost share funds on a quarterly basis and then reach out to the departments and send friendly reminders with information such as just reminding you that your cost share expenses, first of all, they need to be charged. We need to meet that obligation. And then second, we need to cover that. So revenue will have to be moved in. Expenses should not be charged and they should be charged and covered on a consistent basis. Many times I've noticed instances where departments have waited to the end of fiscal year to try to cover their cost share, and that is not a wise idea. You should consistently try to meet this obligation throughout the year. There are no transfers between fiscal years from E&G funds, and I have seen departments get in a little bit of a mess because they waited too late, let the fiscal year end, and then realized that they had not met their cost share obligation. So they were unable to move salaries or reallocate salaries from their E&G fund to their 30 fund and had to come up with another creative solution to meet that obligation. Many times if we're not unable to meet our obligation, our cost share obligation, then charges that are charged to the sponsors fund, the 30 fund, will simply have to be reclassified as cost share, and in that instance, money's left on the table. So it is important to make sure you meet your cost share obligation on a consistent basis. We do have a report, FWR-EXCS. It's a very helpful report in monitoring cost share funds. Also, another quarterly responsibility, our accountants review fund, org, and program errors. These are simply errors where the org or the program that was used when keying the entry was not the org or program assigned to that specific fund, or was not the org or program set up in Banner that auto-populates. The type of error dictates who makes the correction. We are happy to make as many corrections on our end as possible. However, if this is an entry such as salary, then that's going to be an error that has to be, or a mistake that had to be corrected on your end, and possibly may have to get payroll involved to help you out with that. And please do make SPA accountants aware of any funds that you are using multiple orgs on, and this will help us ensure that we're not wasting our time or your time reporting errors to you that really aren't errors. This is the FWR-EXCS banner form I mentioned earlier. You simply put in your printer as with other reports, and then you will utilize, this is actually org specific, so if you just have one org, you can run the cost share reports for that one org. Keep in mind, if you, the report will produce all cost share funds associated with that org. And this is what the report looks like. It gives you, simple, pertinent information to do a quick assessment of your cost share funds. This is the actual reports that our accountants look at, and it has the information such as the start and end date, the overall budget, the expenses to date, the available budget balance, and then the fund balance. And so as our accountants see large fund balances, that's when we're going to send you a friendly reminder that you need to cover that balance, because maybe we're getting close to the end of the project or the end of the fiscal year, and so we need to certainly have those balances zeroed out before fiscal year. And then some other responsibilities, time and effort reporting. This was required for restricted funds. They're due 90 days after the period ends. You will receive an email from Denise Peoples, our director, asking you to go out and print your reports and then have them reviewed by your staff and your faculty, and then ultimately submitted to our office. And then if you're in need of a scholarship fund, this is some information here that can help you. I won't go through it for the sake of time, but these are set up by Denise. And okay, so moving on to invoicing the sponsor. So our SPA staff, this is one of the largest responsibilities we have on a monthly basis. We submit anywhere from 400 to 700 invoices in a month's time. We submit invoices on a monthly, quarterly, and then various installment dates. We make draws typically twice a month, various systems. Financial reports, these are submitted monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, annual. Really just anytime the sponsor needs to ask for a report, then we'll get that report to them. A lot of times when we've asked for a no-cost extension, they'd like to see the status of that project, and so therefore we'll send a financial report. Scan copies of these invoices, all the backup documentation, these financial reports, this is all saved in our application within Extender. So if you have any questions about a specific invoice, a payment, before you contact the accountant, you can do a quick search, go to Extender, pull up that invoice, and you can see the documentation. You can actually see the calculator tape that has been ran to calculate the IC. And most times you will be able to answer your question by looking at that. Department's responsibilities: provide the supporting documentation when requested to SPA documents at controller.msstate.edu. Every month, at the beginning of the month, we have our office student workers will reach out to your departments and ask for this documentation. And we do ask that you do your best to send that documentation in as quickly as possible, because invoices are required, the due dates are various from month to month. We do have some invoices that are due on the 5th of the month, the 10th of the month, the 15th of the month. So as quick as we can get the supporting documentation from you guys that is required by the sponsor, and then the quicker that we can turn these invoices around and make sure that we're meeting these deadlines, we're keeping our sponsors happy, because ultimately that's important to us. Confirm the PI reports have been sent, provide copies when requested. This typically happens toward the end of a project at closeout. We like to have all of our ducks in a row, and so we do want to have a copy of that PI report. Even if it's the PI that submits it to the sponsor, we'd like to have a copy in our file. Access and use the scanned copies of invoices from Extender during reconciliation. Communicate any relevant information with your SPA accountant. And then on to award closeout. So expiration memo is a memo that our sponsors program accountants send each month. These are notifications that your fund is about to expire within the next 90 days. So this is just a simple, friendly reminder that prompts you to begin performing a thorough review of that fund, complete any JLRFs to ensure no salaries are posted after term. You also want to look and make sure that your inventory supply, the aggregate value of that inventory supply, is not over a certain threshold that has been set by OMB. So you may want to check out Uniform Guidance 200, Code Section 200.315. Also, cost share obligations have been met and covered. We want to communicate any expected extensions to your SPA accountant. So anytime you are aware that it looks like you need an extension, the PI has communicated to you that we're going to need an extension, pass that information along to us. We'll make a note, and it just helps, it helps everyone. It helps make sure that we're using our time as efficient as possible. And then keep in mind, I can't stress enough how cost transfers completed at the end of a project raises red flags for auditors. It increases the audit risk. So actually, per the cost transfer policy 6101, all cost transfers must be completed at least 30 days prior to the date the final report is due to the sponsor. So keep that in mind. If you are submitting a cost transfer or trying to transfer cost onto a project without any reasonable explanation, it could be denied, and therefore you could lose sponsor funding for those charges and not being reimbursed. This is just an example of the expiration memo that is sent each month. Now, the most interesting guy in the world says, I don't always ask for no-cost extensions, but when I do, it's 60 days after the grant ended. You do not want to be the most interesting department on MSU's campus. So be sure that if you notice as you're managing your projects and you're communicating with the PIs, you're going to know before the project ends whether you need an extension or not. So please be proactive, not reactive. Let's be proactive in asking for those extensions, and then also making sure that our central offices are the communication is happening with the central offices, so we're aware that at least we're asking for the extension, whether it's been approved yet or not. Award closeout. So an internal closeout. This is a form that's sent by SPA staff. It reflects cumulative charges in Banner. Most of these closeouts are performed by our accountant, Jeanette Bailey. This form is simply a form of communication. We are running a ledger. We're tallying up all the expenditures, all the revenue and payments that have been received, and then we're making a calculation as far as what should the final invoice reflect. What are the cumulative charges it would reflect, and then also what is the final invoice amount that we're asking the sponsor for. It is to your benefit that you do a thorough review on this closeout. Don't simply take Jeanette's word for it or take my word for it or anyone else's word for it. These are your funds and your responsibility. So be sure to be diligent, do a good job of reviewing these closeouts, because we want to make sure we don't cost you any money or the university any money by excluding a charge or leaving off a charge that's outstanding and then has not yet posted in Banner. So you're simply agreeing with or reviewing the closeout to ensure that your numbers agree with our numbers. You want to communicate any of these discrepancies. If there are charges that are outstanding have not yet posted in Banner, we will require that you provide us with supporting documentation to substantiate any outstanding charges and make sure that they did occur within the project dates. And then there's closeouts that are external. These are forms that are required by the sponsoring agency. Typically, especially with federal agencies, property reports are required to report any property that was purchased. And we receive these reports from Sharon Hamlin in Receiving and Property Control. Intellectual property. If there are any patents or inventions in our office, we reach out to Jessica Northcutt for this information. Final PI reports. As I mentioned earlier, we would like to receive copies of this report. 9 times out of 10, the PIs or the departments are the ones who submit these reports to the sponsoring agency. However, sometimes we do submit the reports for the PI. Quite frankly, I think from my experience, most sponsoring agencies prefer to receive all information together, such as the final financial, the final invoice, the PI's report, any other information or closeout forms. They like to receive it together, but there are other different ways of doing things as well. Other agencies have different people that receive different financial reports, so, but we do like to receive a copy. And then, of course, the final financial report is compiled and submitted from SPA. So when Sponsored Programs talks, all Charlie Brown hears is why. So I hope today that this is not what you've heard. I hope this has been beneficial information for you. So thank you again for your time. We do appreciate you, and if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact our office, contact your SPA accountant, or contact me directly. My name is Jonathan Tucker, and you can reach me by phone or email, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.